In a world overflowing with luxury, where the gap between the haves and have-nots seems to widen every day, one man dared to cross the divide. This is the story of Julian Vance, a name synonymous with success. A tech mogul whose net worth was talked about in billions. He had everything a person could dream of: sprawling mansions, a fleet of supercars, and a life so insulated from hardship it might as well have been on another planet. But beneath the polished surface of his perfect life, a question haunted him. Had he lost touch with reality? Did he truly understand the world he was so successful in? Julian was sitting in his penthouse, overlooking a city that sparkled like a sea of diamonds. He was surrounded by opulence, but he felt an emptiness that no amount of money could fill. He looked at his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window and saw not a powerful tycoon, but a man trapped in a golden cage. He saw his friends, his business partners, all living in the same bubble, their conversations revolving around stock prices and yacht acquisitions. He realized he hadn't had a genuine, unfiltered conversation in years. The world he knew was a curated experience, designed for his comfort, and he was suffocating in it. That night, a decision took root in his mind, a radical idea that was both terrifying and exhilarating. He would abandon his identity. For 30 days, he would become nobody. No money, no connections, no safety net. He would live on the streets, work for his food, and experience life from the very bottom. His friends called him insane. His advisors warned of the immense risks. But Julian knew this was something he had to do. It wasn't about a social experiment. It was about reclaiming a piece of his own humanity. It was a choice of courage over comfort. The next morning, he left his old life behind with nothing but a change of clothes, a fake ID with the name Leo, and $100 in his pocket. His 30-day journey into the unknown had begun. The first few days were a brutal shock. The city he once viewed from his penthouse now felt like a concrete jungle, cold and indifferent. The noise, the smells, the constant motion, it was a sensory overload. Hunger was no longer an abstract concept. It was a gnawing pain in his stomach. Sleep wasn't a luxury in a king-sized bed. It was a few stolen hours on a park bench, one eye always open. He quickly learned that his $100 wouldn't last long. He tried to find work, but without a real address or references, doors were slammed in his face. The Julian Vance who could command boardrooms was now invisible. Just another face in the crowd of the forgotten. He felt despair creeping in, a feeling he had never truly known. He saw the world through a new lens, one of frustration and desperation. But just as he was about to break, a small act of kindness changed everything. An elderly woman named Maria, who ran a small soup kitchen out of a church basement, saw him shivering in the rain. She didn't ask questions. She just offered him a warm bowl of soup and a dry place to sit. That simple gesture felt more valuable than any multi-million-dollar deal he had ever closed. He started volunteering at the soup kitchen, washing dishes and serving meals. There, he met people whose stories humbled him. He met a single mother working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over her children's heads. He met a former teacher who lost everything to medical bills. He met a young artist whose talent was overshadowed by the daily struggle for survival. These weren't statistics, or news headlines. They were real people with names, dreams, and immense resilience. They laughed, they cried, they supported each other with a sense of community Julian had never experienced in his wealthy circles. One of his new friends was a man named Sam, a construction worker who had been injured on the job and was fighting to get by. Sam was tough and cynical on the outside, but he had a heart of gold. He saw something in Leo, a determination that didn't quite fit his circumstances. Sam taught him the ropes of day labor, how to find gigs loading trucks or cleaning construction sites. The work was back-breaking. Julian's hands, once accustomed to signing checks, were now calloused and raw. His body ached in ways he never thought possible. One evening, exhausted after a 12-hour shift that earned him barely enough for a meal and a spot in a cheap hostel, Julian sat with Sam on a curb, watching the city's elite drive by in their luxury cars. "You ever wonder what their lives are like?" Sam asked, nodding towards a sleek black sedan. Julian just smiled grimly. "I used to," he said. In that moment, he felt a strange sense of freedom. He was no longer Julian Vance, the billionaire. He was just Leo, a man who had earned his dinner through the sweat of his brow. And for the first time in a long time, he felt genuinely proud. He learned the value of $1 in a way he never had before. A $5 bill wasn't pocket change. It was 2 meals. A warm pair of socks wasn't a given. It was a cherished luxury. He discovered a resourcefulness within himself he never knew existed. He learned how to patch his clothes, how to find the cheapest food, and how to navigate the complex social systems of the street. He was shedding the layers of his old self and discovering a tougher, more empathetic person underneath. He saw both the worst and the best of humanity. He saw people ignore a man who had collapsed on the sidewalk, but he also saw a stranger give that same man his own coat. He saw the systemic failures that trap people in poverty, but he also saw the incredible strength and dignity of those who refused to be broken by it. His perspective was shifting profoundly. The problems he used to obsess over a dip in the stock market, a delayed shipment of a new sports car now seemed laughably trivial. As his 30 days drew to a close, Julian felt a strange mix of emotions. He was eager to return to the comfort of his old life, to a warm bed and a full pantry. But he was also terrified of losing the clarity he had gained. He was afraid of slipping back into the bubble, of forgetting the faces and stories that had been etched into his soul. The night before his experiment ended, he sat with Maria and Sam at the soup kitchen. He didn't tell them who he really was. He just thanked them deeply and sincerely for their kindness and friendship. "You're a good man, Leo," Maria said, patting his hand. "Don't you ever forget that." The next day, Julian Vance returned. He was clean-shaven, dressed in an expensive suit, and sitting in the back of his limousine. But he was not the same man who had left 30 days earlier. The city looked different. He no longer saw just buildings and traffic. He saw the stories behind every window, the struggles and triumphs playing out on every street corner. He saw Maria's soup kitchen and Sam looking for work on the corner. The invisible had become visible. His transformation was immediate and decisive. He didn't just write a check. He fundamentally changed his life and his business. He established a foundation, but he didn't just fund it. He ran it himself. He created programs for job training, housing assistance, and mental health support. He visited the shelters, not for photo ops, but to listen. He based his new ventures on a principle of profit with purpose, investing in companies that prioritized employee welfare and community impact. He sought out Sam not as a billionaire benefactor, but as a friend. He offered him a job managing a new construction project, one that guaranteed fair wages and safe working conditions. At first, Sam was stunned and a little angry at the deception. But when he saw the genuine change in Julian's eyes and the real-world impact of his actions, he understood. Their friendship, forged in hardship, was now rebuilt on a new foundation of respect and shared purpose. Julian Vance's story became a quiet legend in the business world. Some of his old colleagues still thought he was crazy, that he'd gone soft. But others saw the wisdom in his transformation. They saw a leader who was more grounded, more creative, and more in tune with the world around him. He had traded the sterile comfort of his old life for the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of the human experience. He had learned that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in connection, in empathy, and in the courage to step outside your comfort zone to truly see the world through another's eyes. He proved that choosing courage over comfort doesn't just change your perspective. It can change the world.